Good afternoon from Calgary and good evening from Accra. So,
Hey, Benjamin.
yeah, what do you have to tell our folks who are listening to us?
Well, let's kind of look at this from a international level today. You know, I kind of keep things going on my local Calgary front on my channel, but I like to look at the big picture when we speak, you and I, Benjamin, because it's a perspective from two continents and two different parts of the world. So you've been having troubles with your power over there, it sounds like. Is that typical, or is it getting a little bit worse lately, or what's up?
Yeah, it's worse lately. It used to be okay for some time. Actually, the previous government, before this one, experienced the same, what do you call it, power fluctuation uh, problem. Like, um, what the expert said during those power, cuts was that we didn't have sufficient badges, power source. So they brought in more, you know, they sought for power badges from Turkey, okay, and they brought it in. And some school of thought also says that it's not about the power badges to generate enough energy, but it's the problem with the economy, okay, buying fuel to power the gensets that we already had. So when these guys came in, the new government came in, that's what exactly they did. They, what do you call it, secured funds, and they pump money into the power generation side. And within a short time, about 3 months, this erratic power cuts changed drastically. Okay. So we fairly had a stable power supply until COVID reared its ugly head. And COVID have actually affected many economies, not ours alone, but many, even great economies like Germany and all of them are reeling under the, what do you call it, the effect of this COVID, because if you cannot transact business freely, or you are restricted under certain conditions where travel is restricted, and you cannot do the regular kind of business, then money flow, that is the currency, the flow of currency is in a way trivialized. Okay, you don't know where to source, and your economy become waggy or shaky in a way. So all of the third world countries are actually reeling under this COVID, the effect of COVID. But on the positive side also, COVID have opened the eyes of many people to things that can be done without traveling and so on. But on a lighter note, or let's say, looking at the general, what do you call it? The intended purpose of COVID, as you and me know, was intended for one thing: a reset, a global reset. Okay, uh, to bring the nations to their knees, whereby they can virtually do nothing, and then they spread their arms in aghast for help. And by so doing, then the powers that be will reset it to their benefit, whereby they call the shot. Okay, if you do this, I'll do this for you. If you do this, so that's what it was intended. But I don't think it's going the way it was intended. So
Exactly, brother. Yeah, that's a good thing to start this off with, you know. I was thinking about language as well, and how, we're going to get into some words today that I really like. And you know, very few people probably know how Benjamin and I got involved together. Well, it was through the banking industry and our knowledge of how instruments and secondary banking instruments work, like the SBLC, secondary standby letters of credit, and then things like that, which is very unfamiliar to most people, how credit is manifested bank to bank in all kinds of little games that are played. But also wanted to mention that isn't like English would be considered your third language, wouldn't it? Like you trained in Germany, so German would be your second, right?
Yeah, English is actually, I would say, we have in Ghana, we use English as our official language, okay? Official language. But I did my basic education here and most of my second cycle, but the tertiary education, higher tertiary education was in German and in Austria, Austria.
Yeah, I thought so. So yeah, there's, you've got such an advantage over me. I only know one language, and that language being English, which is the most deceptive language on earth. And as far as I'm concerned, there's so many word games played with the English language. It's not even funny,
Yeah, like like the other day I was speaking with someone and I said, be careful with your words. Otherwise, they will become a soul to you one of these days. And the person was like, repeat what you said. I said, be careful with your words. Otherwise, they will turn into salt that will hurt you one day. And then I said, to further understand what I mean by what I said, take the word words and then take the S at the end and put it in front of the W. What do you get? You get salt. So words are very powerful, and words are, creative if you use it properly, okay? And by means of creativity, I don't mean you audibly saying it, but there is a deeper word, coming from, you know what I mean, coming from within you. And when they are properly spoken, they become effective. Or a friend of mine, very spiritually minded person, okay, he told me, you want things, but you don't know how to speak. And I said, what is this man saying? He said, you want things, but you don't know how to speak. And so I said, please, can you, unpack this few? He said, yeah, people sometimes want things in their life, but they don't know how to communicate. So in short, what they actually request in their life lose them. But it was a simple communication, okay? And he said, in life, you are always negotiating. I said, what? He said, in life, everything that you do is negotiation. You are crossing the traffic light is negotiation. You do this, at a point in time, I also do this, okay? So you want something, you say, okay, we agreed upon them. So everything is negotiation. And if you know how to negotiate, you can negotiate yourself out of trouble or navigate yourself out of circumstances or problems. But somebody who doesn't know the terrain will face a similar problem or similar circumstances which one is facing, and suddenly it becomes a problem, and to another, it's a piece of cake, okay? And some people are actually looking for problems, okay? And I met one guy, an entrepreneur, who was saying, the people in one area of a certain, geographical location, were complaining, and we don't have this, and we are poor, and we are that, and we are not, and all is about nagging. So he managed to gather few, educated ones and then said them down. He said, Do you know that in this township that you are, there's so much money? I said, where is the money? Where? And he said, sit down. What actually is a problem here? The problem here that you people have to depend on the other, cities or adjoining township. Said, yeah, we don't have this, we don't have that, we don't have, and then I said, how many people travel to this place to get these things there? Can we build a center for that? And suddenly it was like a flash of insight. The mind of the people open and say, oh, so if these people travel here every day to this township and they buy this from them, and we have the same land and we can create it. Oh. So the money, instead of going to the next town, comes to us. That is creativity. Okay. You create the situation, you create a solution for that particular problem. So, like I'm saying, people always look for what do you call it? Opportunities to problems to solve. And then once you solve the problem, and that's where we are heading towards, there'll be in the coming days, um, maybe somewhere, there'll be so much disclosure or information that you wouldn't know what to do with it. Okay. The people who do a lot of analysis, maybe like Cliff High said in one of his analysis, said will be left behind because they will be analyzing and analyzing until what do you call it? But it's an information. It is there. Use it, to achieve what you have to achieve. So I don't know before I shift. If you have something to say or what I've, I
Sure. Yeah, no, that's good, Benjamin. And it is, you tied a lot of things together there, and it comes back to money a lot of the times. But money and politics are both run by authority and agreement. So AU, authority, and agreement, AG.
AG.
And I think, not too many people know this either, but Benjamin and I were the ones that kind of decoded that whole situation and that money magic, and brought in the element of love and, kindness and compassion to the banking industry, and in the every manner that we possibly could, in our
If you are looking at
tenure together.
you are looking at the alphabet, A is 1. If you pair them with the numbers, okay, A, we have 26 letters of the alphabet. And then when you actually take the A, which represent 1, and the G, which represents 17, and you know what that means. 17 Q. And Q is
That's right. And that's where you and I really clicked. Like, I mean, there's a little bit of difference in our language and our understanding of each other. Like, I have to pay close attention sometimes to your accent and stuff. But when it comes to the simple things like numbers and elements and the AU and the AG and stuff, that's where you and I really became friends and clicked, because we could communicate at that same level.
So
it's beautiful, brother.
Beautiful. This afternoon we're discussing on something on density, and that has to do with salt and the fresh water, and we're even discussing on the reason why ships, the underbellies of vessels are painted with a red color, and it has a historical antecedent. So it has a historical, what do you call it, meaning why people do what they do. And I will throw in 2 jokes before we continue. There was a lady who stayed with the grandmother, okay? And the grandmother had a small flying pan. So each and every time they cook, they cut the size of the fish and they fry it. No matter how big the size is, they always cut the size. And so it was passed on. This girl learned it from the grandma, And then the girl also grew up, got married, and then trained the daughter also in the same way. Okay, the daughter also got married and then trained the child also in the same way. So it was like the fourth generation cooked the same way, cutting the size of the fish. And the fourth generation married to a man who is very what do you call it? Uh, Savvy, tech savvy, or what do you call it? Very liberal minded. And so, why do you always cut the size of the fish and throw the what do you call it? The big size away? He said, I don't know, but that was what my mom said she learned from the grandmom. And so the husband went to the grandmom and then asked. And the grandmom said, oh, that is what I also learned from my mother. And then they have to trace back, okay? And they went to the very old grandnanny who also inherited from the dead. They said, oh, I also learned it from my grandmom. And so you didn't ask any question. So the guy sat down and said, the grandmom, the one of them, actually the last one, told the guy that in those days, our pants were so small, okay, in size. So the fish couldn't accommodate, the pan couldn't accommodate what you call it, the fish. So the size were just, chopped off to accommodate. But the generation took it as a style. So chunk of the fish,
Yeah.
which was edible, was just thrown away because, somebody did it and it became a norm and everybody was doing that, okay? So back to the ship, we have painted this in red, the underbellies of sheep red, and we don't know why. And there are a lot of people uh, saying a lot of different things. But the reason why it was painted red for uh, for the purpose of one of them, not I'll list several. One of them was that ships were made up of iron in those days. Okay, and the color of the sea. So when there was an accident and it capsized, the red part, was easily seen by helicopters for uh, 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 helping uh, on rescue mission. So the helicopters on
Yeah.
rescue mission could easily identify. And then the other one that I read was to make sure that the underbelly is protected from what do you call it, moths and molds and microbes and so on. Okay, and they mix the paint with copper to protect it also from being eaten away by the corrosive salt of the sea. Okay, so that is two. The other one has to do with the Primson line. The Primson line is a line which determine the density, whether at a certain point when the ship sinks in the waters, if it is full of salt, you can try it at home. Put salt in a bowl and then add water and then put what do you call it, egg. You see that the egg in the low salt water sinks, and then the egg in the salty water floats. It has to do with density. Okay, so that is what we shared today. So you were saying that you would like to throw more about that on density and spirituality. So I leave it to you to continue with that.
Yeah, no, that's good, Benjamin. It kind of brought a bunch of thoughts to my little brain about back to our Suez Canal conversations that we had,
Yeah.
And if people want to go back and listen to some of those, as far as I know, that evergreen, ever given ship is still sitting in Suez Canal, hasn't moved yet. So, there's still a lot of stuff going on there. But, it's funny how there's lakes along the route in the Suez Canal, right?
Italy.
So the lakes would be freshwater,
Yeah.
and then on either end would be saltwater,
Yeah.
So when you think of these ships, like that one alone had 18,000 containers on it.
Yeah.
The weight of that thing is just amazing, how much weight would be on it. And if you think how it's adjusting as it goes through that canal from the saltwater, which is more dense, to the freshwater in the lakes, which is less dense, it's, there's something there too that maybe it was something they should have been considering a little bit more when they got to the size that they did of these ships going through that Suez Canal. That's like, it's just monstrous, the size that you can imagine with 18,000 containers on board, like how big that ship has to be. So it kind of interested me there. And then, of course, the level of the Suez Canal always intrigues me. 120 miles without any curvature, right?
Yeah.
And then that brings up the ideas that Benjamin and I have in common about density versus gravity. And there's a couple of English words that I want to just, expand on a little tiny bit. So gravity being grave, like that's where it's kind of like a negative word, or it's kind of a word that's relates to death, or gravity, right? Where density is more what I believe that's going on this plane of existence that we live on. So then I thought about, and this is all going to kind of add up when people listen, I'm sure, if they're paying attention to what we're saying. But the idea of density also has a number of meanings, right? So the elite people on Earth think that most people are dense, right? We're stupid. They think we're ignorant. But we've learned so much and caught up to and surpassed a lot of that intelligence, brother. And so the density thing is no longer an issue. We're surpassing some of the so-called intelligence and knowledge that these people were laughing at us about. And that, the density can also relate to our bodies, right? So we know that we're in this so-called iron age of, inputs in our food and our medicines and stuff that are metal related, so the density of metal is coming into our existence on a biological level, and disrupting our light, okay, our lightness, our expanded consciousness in a way that is biological and mental, and of course spiritual. When we think of the light, like a lot of people will refer to those who are telling truth out there as light workers. So that lightness, rather than the density, the elimination of the heavy metals out of our bodies through the cleansing methods that you and I practice and many others do in this truth movement, if you want to call it that, that's surpassed the New World Order old gang that really wanted to just control our minds and control the masses. And they've failed, and we've excelled and surpassed that old system. So, it kind of all ties together, I think. I mean, I may be speaking out of turn here for some people, but I think a lot of our audience, our golden audience, AU, that you and I have attracted, will get a little bit more tidbits from what you and I are saying and add to their own story, which is what this lightness, this enlightenment is all about. So back to you, brother.
So when I finished speaking with you, and I was going through my, what do you call it, one of my social media pages, a friend sent me this. There were a, a couple were in their kitchen, and the man had put a pen in a long bottle, okay, and was telling the wife, she flashed cash in front of the lady and said, you know, if you're able to remove this pen without touching the bottle, I'll give all this cash to you. And the lady was looking at the husband and said, are you sure? I said, wait, I'm coming. So the man was looking at the wife and said, I got you now. You cannot take it. Don't touch the bottle, but take the pen. He said, can I do? He said, you can do anything, but make sure you don't touch the bottle. Just pick the pen out. And then what the lady did was she went and fetch water and then put it in the bottle. And then the pen started floating. It started floating, okay? And then she picked the pen up. And that has to do with density, okay? So
Yes.
once you become more dense, you become less dense, you can have the cash. That is what I related to it. The more, what do you become? You become less dense and happier you are and free from, you know, being weighed down.
Beautiful.
You can get whatever you want. And on a lighter note, also, you know, the spaceship have to overcome the grave that you're talking of, okay, to be able to move upwards, okay. So you see that they have to put fire under the craft just to push it up because it is pulling you down. The weight of the earth is pulling you down, and there must be, what do you call it, an extra force to, what do you call it, overcome this, to lift, electromechanical lifts, okay. So in order to overcome gravity, you have to overcome this electromechanical, what do you call it, something, and then propel upwards. And that is what exactly the lady, what do you call it, did at the kitchen. And the husband was just eating it. Okay, you get the pen out. And then the lady said, wait, you mean the pen must float? So yeah, the pen must float. He said, okay, wait. And then he brought a jar of water, poured it, and each and every time she poured, there was a lift. Each and every time she poured, there was a lift. And water signifies what? Spirit. Okay? Water signifies spirit. So once you become less dense and you become so, what do you call it, spiritually uplifted, you can get whatever you want to get. And immediately she took the pen out, she was, you know, paid. Or she took the money from the other. Said, yeah, I've finished. Give me my money and thank you for, you know, this easy. What the annoying part was, she said, thank you for this easy part. This easy, you know, payday.
Yeah, so many good words in there, brother, like uplifting and
Yeah.
frequency and, you know, elevation, all of those words that you know were spell cast on us to keep us in that grave situation, that gravity holding us down, you know, bullshit story, when it's just about density and light. But you know, brother, I'm gonna have to you can kind of see I'm a
Yeah.
ways from home yet. And I'm gonna get wet if I don't keep walking, and there's some traffic here, so we may have to just kind of shorten this one up for today, brother. I can, you know, I might not be able to hear you, but you can talk again and we'll try. I'm going to go through a
Okay.
traffic area here, and then you can just take the lead for a
So,
little while if you like.
so you can also I don't want the rain to, beat, what do you call it, hammer you down there. So you can just close us with your usual, what do you call it, ending.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think so, because it's gonna catch up on me if I don't shut it off, and I can't hear you now because of the traffic. So I think best we just say to finish it off for today, and then we'll come back next week and have another go round and have
Yeah,
some fun.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so
So,
it, as we always say at the end, with peace, harmony, love, abundance, and freedom for everyone and everything, every day on our minds, abundance, sovereignty, health, love, and euphoria. You can take it away, Benjamin. Give us some good words of wisdom. I love you, brother.
thank you. I love you too. I love you all. Till the next one. We'll meet on the next one. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Yeah.